I was supposed to be the side character. Chapter 1. I was meant to die. I died on a Tuesday. Not in some glorious battle. Not while saving someone's life. I choked on a piece of fried chicken while binge reading my favorite romance novel. If there was an award for the most embarrassing death in history, I deserved it. When I opened my eyes again, I wasn't standing before the gates of heaven. Instead, I was lying face down on a wooden classroom desk. The smell of old books and ink filled the air. Ethan. A piece of chalk bounced off my forehead. The entire class burst into laughter. I looked up to see an elderly professor glaring at me over his glasses. If you've finished your nap, perhaps you'd like to answer the question. My heart nearly stopped. Those uniforms. That classroom. Those stained glass windows. No. No way. I slowly turned toward the girl sitting beside me. Silver hair. Emerald eyes. Serena Whitmore. The heroine. My stomach dropped. I wasn't dreaming. I had actually reincarnated into The Crown of Roses, the romance novel I'd been reading before I died. Oh, this is amazing. I whispered. I knew every major plot twist. Every villain. Every hidden treasure. This was going to be easy. I almost laughed out loud. Then someone behind me muttered, "Poor Ethan. He'll probably get lost again after class." Ethan. The name echoed in my head. Wait. Ethan? My smile froze. I wasn't the prince. I wasn't the cold duke. I wasn't even the villain everyone loved to hate. I was Ethan Gray, a background student. I searched my memory in a panic. Then it hit me. Chapter 3. A forgotten corridor. A secret meeting between corrupt nobles. Ethan accidentally overhears them. Before he can tell anyone, he's murdered. His death lasts less than 2 pages. No one remembers him after that. He exists for one reason: to prove the villains are dangerous. You've got to be kidding me. The professor frowned. Did you say something, Ethan? I forced a smile. No, Professor. Inside, I was already screaming. I had escaped one ridiculous death, only to wake up in a story where I was scheduled to die all over again. Not next year. Not next month. In 3 days. I clenched my fists beneath the desk. The original story could forget Ethan Gray all it wanted. I wasn't about to become another disposable side character. If fate wanted me dead, it was going to have to catch me first. The moment class ended, I shot out of my seat like my life depended on it. Because it did. In the novel, Ethan died in the East Corridor while taking a shortcut to the library. Simple solution. Don't go anywhere near the East Corridor. I marched confidently toward the West Wing, grinning to myself. Take that, fate. 3 steps later, I slipped on a freshly mopped floor. Whoa! My arms flailed wildly as I braced for the painful meeting between my face and the marble floor. It never came. A strong arm wrapped around my waist, pulling me against a firm chest. Careful. A deep voice rumbled above me. I looked up. Dark hair. Golden eyes. A face so unfairly handsome it could probably start wars. Lucien Ashford. The cold second male lead. The man every reader, including me, secretly rooted for. Our eyes locked. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved. Then I realized exactly how close we were. His hand was still around my waist. My palms were pressed against his chest. Oh, I jumped back so quickly I nearly slipped again. Sorry. Lucien's lips curved into the faintest smile. You're unusually clumsy. I prefer the word talented. At falling. At surviving. The words escaped before I could stop them. One of Lucien's eyebrows rose. Surviving? I mean, surviving embarrassment. Smooth, Ethan. Very smooth. He studied me with quiet amusement. Something felt wrong. In the novel, Lucien wasn't supposed to be here. He should have been training on the northern field with the knights. So why was he in this hallway? Before I could think harder, footsteps echoed nearby. A group of noble students rounded the corner. The moment they saw Lucien, they respectfully stepped aside. Then one of them looked at me. Oh, it's Ethan. His friend snickered. Didn't know Lord Ashford talked to commoners. I rolled my eyes. Great. Class discrimination. Lucien's expression turned icy. He spoke to me, he said calmly. Is there a problem with that? The laughter died instantly. The students hurried away without another word. I blinked. Hold on. Lucien defended me? That definitely wasn't in the novel. As I tried to process what had just happened, Lucien took one step closer. Close enough that I could catch the faint scent of cedar and rain on his uniform. His golden eyes searched mine. I have the strange feeling, he murmured, that you've changed. My heartbeat skipped. How could he notice that already? I forced out a laugh that sounded far less convincing than I'd hoped. Changed? I just almost fell. Near-death experiences build character. Lucien didn't laugh. He simply kept staring at me with those piercing golden eyes, as if trying to read every thought in my head. I've seen you around the academy before, he said. You always avoided eye contact. Maybe I got tired of looking at the floor. That tiny hum somehow made me even more nervous. Thankfully, a loud bell echoed across the academy grounds. I should go, I blurted, taking a step backward. Lots of student things to do. I spun around and walked away as calmly as I could. The second Lucien was out of sight, I broke into a sprint. Nope. The story was already changing. Lucien wasn't supposed to notice Ethan. He definitely wasn't supposed to defend him. And he absolutely wasn't supposed to look at him like that. I needed to stay away from every major character until the day Ethan was supposed to die. Once I survived that, I'd figure out the rest. Easy. Or so I thought. As I rounded a corner, I froze. The east corridor. My blood ran cold. I didn't come this way. I was certain I'd been heading toward the dormitories. Had I gotten lost? Before I could turn around, muffled voices drifted from a room at the end of the hall. The assassination must happen during the founder's banquet. The witness cannot be allowed to live. Every hair on my body stood on end. No, this was the conversation. The exact one Ethan overheard before he was murdered. Panic surged through me. Walk away, I whispered to myself. Right now. I slowly took one careful step back. Then another. My heel struck a decorative vase. Crash. The porcelain shattered across the floor. The voices behind the door stopped. Silence. A cold, suffocating silence. Then the door creaked open. I didn't wait to see who stepped out. I ran. Footsteps thundered behind me. They're chasing him. I turned another corner and slammed straight into someone's chest. Strong hands caught my shoulders before I could fall. I looked up, my heart pounding. Lucien. Before I could speak, several cloaked figures appeared at the end of the corridor. Their faces were hidden. Their swords were not. Lucien's expression turned dangerously cold as he stepped in front of me. So, he said quietly, resting a hand on the hilt of his sword. It seems someone wants you dead. Chapter 2. The story is breaking. The cloaked men stopped the moment they saw Lucien. For a few tense seconds, no one moved. Then one of them clicked his tongue. Wrong target. They turned and disappeared into the shadows before Lucien could draw his sword. Just like that. Gone. I stood there, frozen. Lucien slowly lowered his hand from the hilt of his sword, but his eyes never left the hallway. They weren't ordinary assassins, he murmured. You think? I blurted. He looked at me. You knew they were after you. It wasn't a question. I panicked. Most people panic after they're chased. No, I mean before that. Before that. I mentally slapped myself. Great. Keep talking, Ethan. Maybe confess you're from another world while you're at it. I heard something suspicious, I said quickly. I got scared and ran. Lucien studied me for a long moment. Then, to my surprise, he sighed. You have terrible luck. I've noticed. He glanced down the corridor once more before turning back to me. Come. What? I'll walk you to your dormitory. Oh, that's really not. I wasn't asking. Well, who was I to argue with the ridiculously handsome guy determined to escort me home? The walk was painfully quiet. I kept sneaking glances at Lucien. In the novel, readers called him the Ice Prince. Cold, untouchable, impossible to approach. So why was he treating me like someone worth protecting? Just as we reached the dormitory entrance, a cheerful voice called out. Ethan. I turned to see Serena jogging toward us. The heroine herself. She smiled brightly at me. I've been looking everywhere for you. Are you all right? People said there was trouble near the east corridor. Before I could answer, her eyes shifted to Lucien. Then to me. Then back to Lucien. A slow, knowing smile spread across her face. Am I interrupting something? My eyes widened. What? No. Lucien remained perfectly calm. No. Serena folded her arms. Really? Because you're standing awfully close. I looked down. At some point during our conversation, I'd stepped closer without realizing it. There was barely enough space between us for a sheet of paper. I immediately stumbled backward. It isn't what it looks like. Serena laughed. Oh, relax. I was only teasing. Lucien glanced at me, and for the first time, I caught the faintest hint of amusement in his golden eyes. Somehow, that tiny smile made my heart beat a little faster. and that terrified me almost as much as the assassins did. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw cloaked figures, flashing swords, and Lucien's face far too close to mine. This is bad. I groaned into my pillow. The assassins know I exist, and the hottest man in the novel won't stop looking at me. One problem was definitely more distracting than the other. The next morning, I decided on a brilliant strategy. Avoid Lucien. No eye contact. No conversations. No accidental falling into his arms. Simple. The moment I stepped outside my dormitory, someone blocked my path. Good morning. I looked up. Of course. Lucien. What a surprising coincidence, I said weakly. It isn't. What? I've been waiting. My brain stopped working. You've been waiting for me? Yes. Why? Why would one of the most important characters in the novel wait outside a background student's dorm? Students walking past slowed down to stare. Whispers spread almost instantly. Isn't that Lord Ashford? Who's the guy he's talking to? I've never seen him approach anyone first. I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me. Lucien ignored everyone. Come with me. Where? Breakfast. Breakfast. You look like someone who forgets to eat. I do not. Right on cue. My stomach let out the loudest growl in recorded history. Several students snorted. I covered my face. You heard nothing. Lucien's lips twitched. I heard enough. Before I could protest, he gently took hold of my wrist. My heart nearly jumped out of my chest. His hand was warm, firm, but careful. He led me across the academy grounds as though it were the most natural thing in the world. By the time we reached the dining hall, every pair of eyes was on us. The room fell silent. One student whispered much louder than intended, "Is Lord Ashford?" holding Ethan's hand. I looked down. He was. Lucien followed my gaze, but made no move to let go. Instead, he asked calmly, "Does it bother you?" I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Honestly, not nearly as much as it should have. A teasing voice echoed from behind us. Well. We turned to find Serena standing in the doorway with an amused smile. I leave you two alone for one evening, and now you're arriving together holding hands. My face burned. We're not. Before I could finish, Lucien quietly intertwined our fingers. I didn't realize this required an explanation. The entire dining hall gasped. I forgot how to breathe. The dining hall exploded into whispers. Did you see that? Lord Ashford is holding Ethan's hand. Since when are they close? I tried to pull my hand away. Lucien didn't let go. Lucien, I whispered through gritted teeth. Everyone's staring. They have eyes. That's not the point. Then what is? I opened my mouth, then closed it again. How was I supposed to explain that the entire plot of the novel was falling apart because he suddenly found me interesting? Serena walked over with the biggest grin I'd ever seen. I didn't expect this. It's not what you think, I said immediately. Oh, we're just. I searched desperately for an excuse. Lucien looked at me, waiting. Friends. He tilted his head. Friends hold hands. Very supportive friends? Serena burst out laughing. I like you two already. Before I could die of embarrassment, a familiar voice cut through the room. Lucien. The hall fell silent again. Adrian Vale, the original male lead. Tall, charming, with warm blue eyes and the effortless smile that made everyone adore him. In the novel, this was the man Serena was destined to fall in love with. Adrian glanced from Lucien to our still intertwined hands. His smile faltered for the briefest moment. I was looking for you, he said. Lucien finally released my hand. I'll speak with you later. Adrian nodded but kept looking at me. And you are? Ethan. I don't think we've met. We haven't. He smiled politely and held out his hand. It's nice to meet you. I shook it. The instant our hands touched, a sharp pain shot through my head. Images flashed before my eyes. A ballroom covered in blood. Lucien kneeling beside me. Someone screaming my name. Then, nothing. I jerked my hand back, breathing hard. Ethan. Adrian frowned. Are you all right? Before I could answer, a strange mechanical voice echoed inside my mind. Warning. I froze. No. Please don't tell me. The original storyline has deviated by 12%. Corrective measures will now begin. A cold chill ran down my spine. This wasn't just a novel anymore. Something inside the story had noticed me. Chapter 3. We kissed. Now what? Corrective measures will now begin. The voice vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. I stood frozen in the middle of the dining hall. Ethan. Serena waved a hand in front of my face. You've been staring into space for almost a minute. A minute? She nodded. You suddenly went completely still. So, no one else had heard the voice. Great. Now I was being hunted by invisible assassins and haunted by a mysterious system. What happened? Lucien asked, his voice quieter than before. I forced a smile. Low blood sugar. Liar. The single word caught me off guard. What? You don't know how to lie. His golden eyes searched mine again, almost as if he could see straight through me. I'll ask one more time. What happened? A loud crash interrupted us. One of the chandeliers above the dining hall snapped free. It was falling, straight toward me. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Students screamed and scattered. I barely managed one step before someone grabbed my waist. Lucien. He pulled me against him and twisted, shielding me with his body as the chandelier smashed onto the floor where I'd been standing. Glass exploded across the room. Silence followed. I blinked. We were incredibly close. One of my hands had somehow ended up gripping the front of his uniform. His arm was wrapped tightly around my waist. You can let go now, I mumbled. You first. I would. I looked down. I think my sleeve is caught on your jacket. Lucien glanced at the fabric tangled between us. Neither of us moved. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed. Not loudly, just one soft chuckle. It transformed his usually cold face completely. My heart skipped. Oh, that was dangerous. Very dangerous. Around us, the students stared in disbelief. Did Lord Ashford just laugh? I've never seen him smile before. Serena covered her mouth, trying and failing not to grin. Adrian folded his arms with an unreadable expression. Before I could untangle myself, Lucien leaned closer. So, he murmured, does trouble always fall from the ceiling whenever you're nearby? I sighed. Only on weekdays. His smile widened. For some reason, I wanted to see it again. Then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The broken chandelier hadn't simply fallen. The chain holding it had been cleanly sliced. Someone had tried to kill me. Again. The dining hall was closed for the rest of the morning. Teachers called it an unfortunate accident. I knew better. Someone had cut that chain. Someone wanted Ethan Gray erased from the story. Lucien insisted on walking me to my next class. I can protect myself, I said. He glanced at me. From falling chandeliers? Fair point. We took a quieter path through the academy gardens. The sound of birds and the fountain almost made me forget someone was trying to kill me. Almost. You've been avoiding my question, Lucien said. What question? What are you hiding? I laughed nervously. Besides my good looks? You've hidden those well. I gasped dramatically. That was rude. It was honest. I bumped his shoulder with mine. He actually bumped me back. The cold, untouchable Lucien Ashford was teasing me. No reader would believe this. As we reached the rose garden, a sudden summer rain began to fall. Seriously? Within seconds, we were soaked. There. I pointed toward an old gazebo. We ran for cover, laughing breathlessly. The rain poured around us, turning the garden into a blur of silver. I wrung out my sleeve. My day keeps getting better. Lucien quietly took off his academy jacket and draped it over my shoulders. You'll catch a cold. What about you? I'll survive. I looked up at him. You're surprisingly kind. He was silent for a moment. Only to one person. My heart stumbled. Was he? No. Surely not. A gust of wind blew rain into the gazebo. I shivered. Without thinking, Lucien stepped closer. Very close. His fingers brushed a damp strand of hair away from my forehead. Neither of us spoke. The world seemed to disappear beneath the steady rhythm of the rain. His eyes dropped to my lips, then back to my eyes. I forgot how to breathe. Ethan, he whispered. You're staring. So are you. I know. Neither of us looked away. Slowly, almost hesitantly, he leaned in. I didn't move. Our foreheads touched. His warm breath fanned across my lips. Just one more inch. A loud clap of thunder shattered the moment. I jumped so hard that I slipped on the wet stone floor. Lucien caught me again. I groaned into his shoulder. I am never going to live this down. He laughed softly. I hope not. Before I could answer, footsteps echoed outside the gazebo. Several academy guards were running toward us. One of them shouted, "There they are. Search every corner." The assassin couldn't have gone far. Lucien's expression instantly hardened. Whoever had tried to kill me was still inside the academy. The guards rushed past the gazebo without noticing us. One of them shouted, Check the west gardens. Seal every exit. When their footsteps faded, I finally let out the breath I'd been holding. This is getting ridiculous. Lucien didn't answer. He was looking at the muddy footprints just outside the gazebo. There was someone here, he said quietly. I followed his gaze. Fresh footprints. Only one set. They stopped just outside the entrance, then disappeared into the rain. Whoever it was had been standing there, watching us. A shiver ran down my spine. We should leave. Lucien nodded, but before we could move, another crash echoed through the garden. A tree branch, freshly cut, slammed onto the path we'd been about to take. Not broken by the storm. Cut. They're hurting us, Lucien muttered. What does that mean? It means they know where we're going. My pulse raced. How? Only the two of us knew we'd come to the gazebo. Unless someone inside the academy was feeding information to the assassins. We're taking another route, Lucien said. He reached for my hand. This time, I took it without thinking. His fingers tightened around mine as we hurried through a narrow passage behind the gardens. The rain had slowed to a drizzle by the time we reached an abandoned storage building. We'll wait here until the guards clear the area, he said. The room was tiny. With the door shut, there was barely enough space for the two of us. I leaned against the wall, trying to calm my racing heart. Lucien stood so close our shoulders brushed. Neither of us spoke. The silence wasn't awkward. It was charged. He looked down at me. You trust me? It wasn't a question. I do. His expression softened. You shouldn't answer that so easily. Why? Because I don't know what I'll do if you keep looking at me like that. My breath caught. What kind of look? The kind that makes me want to forget my self-control. Before I could respond, he gently cupped my face. His thumb brushed my cheek. Tell me to stop, he whispered. I opened my mouth. No words came out. Instead, I closed the distance. Our lips met in a soft, hesitant kiss. For a heartbeat, the world disappeared. Then Lucien kissed me back. Slowly, tenderly. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathing a little harder. A faint smile appeared on his lips. So, I wasn't imagining this. Before I could answer, the storage room door burst open. Serena stood there. Behind her, half the academy. Every single one of them had just seen us kissing.
This story is brought to you by Smiles That Linger. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Now let's dive right back in.
Chapter 4, Fake Dating? Too late. The room fell into a deathly silence. Serena blinked once, twice. Then a grin slowly spread across her face. Well, no one spoke. No one even breathed. Lucien was still standing close enough that our foreheads almost touched. I, on the other hand, wanted the ground to swallow me whole. This isn't. I stopped. Who was I kidding? There was no explaining what they'd just seen. A student finally whispered. They were kissing. Another gasped. So the rumors were true. Within seconds, the hallway erupted. I knew it. When did they start dating? Lord Ashford actually has a boyfriend. Boyfriend? My face turned bright red. I looked at Lucien, silently begging him to deny everything. Instead, he calmly slipped his hand into mine. My brain short-circuited. Lucien. He looked completely unfazed. What? You're making it worse. I don't see the problem. You don't see. I couldn't even finish the sentence. Serena laughed so hard, she had to wipe tears from her eyes. I've never seen Ethan this flustered. Because he's enjoying this too much. I am not. Lucien glanced at me. No. No. He leaned closer until only I could hear him. That's unfortunate. A pleasant shiver ran down my spine despite my best efforts. I hated that he knew exactly what he was doing. Before I could recover, a familiar voice cut through the crowd. Ethan. Everyone turned. Adrian stepped forward, his usual warm smile nowhere to be seen. His eyes lingered on our joined hands. Then on Lucien. I need to speak with Ethan. Lucien answered before I could. You can. Adrian nodded. Alone. The smile disappeared from Lucien's face. No. The temperature in the hallway seemed to drop. Students quickly stepped back, sensing the tension. Adrian met Lucien's gaze without flinching. This concerns Ethan. It concerns him, Lucien replied evenly. Which is exactly why he won't be alone. I looked between them. One looked calm. The other looked polite. Yet somehow it felt like two swords were already clashing. Then Adrian turned to me. Ethan. His voice was quieter this time. Did you kiss him because you wanted to? Or because someone is forcing you? The entire hallway went silent again. Even Lucien's grip on my hand tightened slightly. Every eye was now on me, waiting for my answer. Every pair of eyes stayed fixed on me. Lucien waited. Adrian waited. Even Serena looked unusually serious. I swallowed. No one forced me. Adrian's brows drew together. I chose to kiss him. The hallway went silent for a heartbeat. Then the whispers started again. So they're really together. I can't believe Lord Ashford actually fell in love. Lucien looked at me, and the corners of his lips lifted into a small, genuine smile. You heard him, he said. Adrian held my gaze for a long moment before letting out a quiet sigh. I understand. He smiled again, but this time it didn't quite reach his eyes. I hope he treats you well. I will, Lucien answered before I could. The confidence in his voice made my ears burn. Adrian nodded politely and walked away. For some reason, watching him leave filled me with guilt. In the original novel, Lucien's heart was supposed to belong to someone else. Everything was changing because of me. When the crowd finally dispersed, Serena linked her arm through mine. I want details. There are no details. You kissed him. That happened 5 minutes ago. And I'm still processing it. She laughed. You two are adorable. We're a disaster. Same thing. Before I could argue, Lucien stepped beside us. I'll be borrowing Ethan. Serena raised an eyebrow. For a date. I nearly choked. What? A date? You can't just announce that. Why not? Because you never asked me. Lucien looked genuinely puzzled. So, would you like to go on a date with me? I stared at him. You planned that, didn't you? Maybe. Serena nudged my shoulder. Say yes. I wasn't asking you. She ignored me. So, what's your answer? I looked at Lucien. His usual calm expression hid it well, but there was the faintest hint of nervousness in his eyes. He was actually waiting for my answer. A smile tugged at my lips. Fine. His eyes softened. But only because you already embarrassed me in front of the entire academy. I'll try to do better next time. There will not be a next time. There will. There won't. There will. Serena burst into laughter. You two already sound like an old married couple. Before I could deny it, a bell echoed across the academy. At that exact moment, the strange mechanical voice returned inside my head. Warning. Deviation from the original storyline has reached 31%. Emergency correction has been approved. A cold breeze swept through the courtyard. Somewhere nearby, someone screamed. The scream cut through the academy like a knife. Students froze. Then panic erupted. It's coming from the library. Everyone rushed toward the sound. Lucien instinctively reached for my hand. Stay close. For once, I didn't argue. By the time we reached the library, a crowd had already gathered. The massive wooden doors stood wide open. Inside, books were scattered across the floor as if a storm had swept through. A second-year student sat trembling in the corner, unable to speak. Serena knelt beside him. What happened? He pointed toward the back of the library with a shaking finger. There was someone. Their face. It was gone. A chill crawled up my spine. Lucien stepped in front of me without a word. At the far end of the library, an old bookshelf had collapsed. Beneath it lay a portrait torn cleanly in half. I frowned. Who's that? The librarian, pale as a ghost, whispered, I don't know. You don't know? I've worked here for 20 years. He stared at the ruined portrait in confusion. I know that painting has always been there, but I can't remember who it was. The mechanical voice echoed in my head again. Correction in progress. Unnecessary characters are being removed. My heart stopped. Removed? I looked around the library. A girl standing near the window suddenly frowned. Wasn't someone standing beside me just now? Her friend blinked. What do you mean? I can't remember. Across the room, another student looked around in confusion. I feel like our class had one more person. The librarian grabbed his head. There were 6 shelves in this row. He stared blankly. Why are there only 5? One by one, people began forgetting. Not memories from years ago. Memories from seconds ago. The story wasn't just changing anymore. It was erasing people. I stumbled back. Ethan. Lucien caught my arm. You've gone pale. I looked at him, my voice barely above a whisper. It's starting. What is? Before I could answer, a page floated out of an open book. Written across it in dark ink were words that hadn't been there before. Side characters who are no longer needed will be deleted. The page burst into black flames. At the same instant, someone in the crowd screamed. A boy standing near the entrance flickered like a dying candle and vanished. Not a body, not a trace. as if he'd never existed. Only one person remembered seeing him. Me. Chapter 5. If I disappear. The boy vanished. No flash of light. No dramatic explosion. 1 second he was there. The next, the space he had occupied was empty. The crowd barely reacted. A girl frowned. Weren't we just talking to someone? Her friend shrugged. I think you're imagining things. Imagining? I stared at the empty spot, my pulse pounding. No. I had seen him. He was real. Lucien noticed the horror on my face. Ethan. I grabbed his arm. You saw him too, right? Saw who? My stomach dropped. The boy. Lucien looked around the library. There wasn't anyone there. No. No, that's impossible. Only moments ago, we'd all watched him disappear. Now no one even remembered he had existed. The mechanical voice returned. Correction successful. One unnecessary side character has been removed. Cold sweat ran down my back. I wasn't imagining it. The story was deleting people who no longer mattered. And Ethan Gray had never mattered. I staggered backward until my back hit a bookshelf. Lucien immediately closed the distance. You're shaking. I'm fine. Liar. I'm serious. He gently placed a hand against my forehead. You're freezing. I looked into his eyes. If the story erased me, would he forget me too? The thought hurt far more than it should have. Without thinking, I wrapped my arms around him. For a second, Lucien went completely still. Then his arms slowly circled my waist. He held me carefully, as though I might break. Students around us pretended not to stare. Serena smiled softly and quietly ushered everyone else toward the exit. Give them some space. When the library had nearly emptied, Lucien rested his chin lightly against my hair. Talk to me. I can't. You can. You'll think I'm insane. I won't. His answer came without hesitation. I laughed weakly. You have far too much faith in me. No. He pulled back just enough to meet my eyes. I simply trust you. My chest tightened. This was exactly why I couldn't lose him. Because somewhere along the way, the cold second male lead had become the one person I wanted beside me. Then a sharp pain tore through my body. I gasped. My fingertips flickered. For the briefest moment, they became transparent. Lucien's eyes widened. Ethan. He grabbed my hand. This time, he saw it too. Lucien tightened his grip on my hand. His face, usually so calm, was filled with panic. Your hand. I looked down. The transparency was gone. It looked normal again. I forced a shaky laugh. Maybe it was the light. It wasn't. His voice was firm. I saw it. For the first time since arriving in this world, Lucien looked afraid. Not for himself. For me. He pulled me out of the library before anyone else could notice. We didn't stop until we reached the quiet lake behind the academy. The water reflected the evening sky, calm and undisturbed. Unlike my thoughts. Tell me everything, Lucien said. I stared at the lake. How could I explain that his entire world was a novel? That I wasn't even supposed to exist this long? I can't tell you the whole truth. Then tell me the part you can. I let out a long breath. I was supposed to die. His eyes narrowed. What do you mean? I've been running from that fate since the day you met me. And now, it's catching up. Silence settled between us. Finally, Lucien stepped closer. If fate wants you, it has to go through me first. I smiled sadly. You make it sound so easy. It is. It isn't. It will be. His confidence was almost unfair. I wanted to believe him. More than anything. A cool breeze swept across the lake. Without warning, Lucien lifted a hand and gently cupped my cheek. I've never cared about destiny, he said quietly. I care about you. My heart pounded. You barely knew me a few days ago. I know enough. He smiled faintly. I know you joke when you're scared. You pretend you're fine when you're not. You always help people before yourself. And he brushed his thumb across my cheek. I've fallen in love with you. Every thought disappeared. I couldn't speak. I simply stared at him. A nervous laugh escaped my lips. You're making this really hard. What? If you keep saying things like that. My voice cracked. I'm going to fall even harder for you. The distance between us vanished. This time, when our lips met, there was no hesitation. No accident. No excuse. Just two people desperately trying to hold on to each other. When we finally pulled apart, our foreheads rested together. I love you, Lucien whispered. Before I could answer, a sharp crack echoed through the air. The ground beneath my feet glowed with strange symbols. The mechanical voice rang out one last time. Final correction initiated. A blinding light swallowed me whole. The light swallowed everything. Ethan. Lucien's voice echoed through the blinding white as he lunged toward me. Our fingers brushed, then slipped apart. No. His shout was the last thing I heard before the world went silent. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't at the academy. I stood in an endless white space. No sky, no ground, just emptiness. So this is how it ends. A screen of glowing words appeared before me. Current status, side character. Purpose, advance the story. Correction required. I laughed bitterly. So my whole life was just a plot device? The words shifted. Your existence has caused irreparable damage to the original story. Good. You have stolen the second male lead. I didn't steal anyone. He chose me. For a moment, the screen was silent. Then another line appeared. Love between a main character and a side character is not permitted. I clenched my fists. Says who? The glowing words rippled. The author. Before I could answer, another voice cut through the silence. I disagree. The white space trembled. A crack spread across the endless void. Through it stepped Lucien. His uniform was torn, his face scratched, and his breathing uneven, as though he'd fought his way through 100 enemies to get here. Relief flooded me. Lucien. His eyes found mine instantly. I told you. I wasn't letting fate take you. He crossed the distance in seconds and pulled me into a fierce embrace. I looked everywhere. I thought I'd lost you. I buried my face against his shoulder. I thought you'd forget me. Never. He leaned back just enough to look into my eyes. I don't care if this world calls you a side character. To me, you're the only person who matters. The white space shook violently. The glowing words flashed red. Error. Error. The story can no longer be restored. Cracks spread across the void in every direction. The world itself was beginning to collapse, and we were standing at its very center. Chapter 6. Rewrite my ending. The white world cracked apart like shattered glass. Huge pieces of the empty space broke away into darkness. Red words flashed all around us. Error. Story collapse in progress. A violent tremor threw me off balance. Lucien caught me before I could fall. I've got you. I couldn't help laughing. You always do. Another crack split the ground beneath our feet. This time, it didn't stop. The gap raced toward us. We need to move. I shouted. Lucien nodded, pulling me into a run. As we sprinted across the crumbling white floor, countless glowing pages drifted through the air. Each page showed scenes from the original novel. Serena smiling at Adrian. Lucien standing alone at a battlefield. My own death in a dark corridor. One by one, the pages caught fire and turned to ash. The story is destroying itself, I whispered. No, Lucien replied. It isn't destroying itself. It's changing. A familiar mechanical voice echoed around us. Final warning. Restore the original plot, or this world will cease to exist. A glowing book appeared before us. It floated in the air, its pages turning by themselves until they stopped on a single sentence. Remove Ethan Gray. The story will be restored. Silence fell. I stared at those words. Maybe. This was the answer. If I disappeared now, everyone else could keep living. Serena. Adrian. The Academy. Lucien. I slowly reached toward the book. A hand caught my wrist. No. I looked up. Lucien's golden eyes burned with determination. I won't let you do it. If I don't, this world dies. He stepped between me and the glowing book. Then we'll find another way. There isn't one. You don't know that. The book suddenly changed. New words slowly appeared beneath the first. Second option available. My heart skipped. The page filled with fresh ink. Erase Lucien Ashford. The story will return to its original course. I froze. No, not him. Never him. Lucien read the page and quietly laughed. If one of us has to disappear. He took a slow step toward the book. I'd rather it be me. My eyes widened. Before I could stop him, he reached out toward the glowing page. No, Lucien. I threw myself forward and grabbed his arm before his hand could touch the page. What are you doing? He looked at me with a calm smile. Choosing. You don't get to make that choice alone. If losing me means you live. I don't want a life without you. The words escaped before I could stop them. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Lucien smiled, the same soft smile that had stolen my heart from the very beginning. I was hoping you'd say that. I let out a shaky laugh. You're impossible. So I've been told. The glowing book pulsed impatiently. Make your selection. Time remaining, 30 seconds. No, I muttered. The book flashed brighter. 29. There has to be another way. 28. I flipped through the floating pages scattered around us. Every page told the same story. Heroes, villains, side characters. Everyone had a role. Then one page caught my eye. Unlike the others, it was completely blank. I picked it up. The moment my fingers touched it, words slowly appeared. A story can only be rewritten by the people brave enough to defy its ending. The countdown stopped. The white world became eerily still. Cracks of golden light spread across the blank page. Without thinking, I grabbed Lucien's hand. If this world is a story, I looked into his eyes. Then let's write our own ending. He squeezed my hand. Together, the blank page burst into brilliant golden light. The glowing book trembled violently. The red letters surrounding us began to disappear one after another. Error. Error. Unknown ending detected. The sky above us shattered, revealing a beautiful blue horizon beyond the white void. Warm sunlight poured through the cracks. For the first time, the mechanical voice sounded uncertain. The story has left the original script. A smile spread across my face. Good. The world exploded into light. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying beneath the Academy's old oak tree. Birds were singing. The sun was warm, and someone was tightly holding my hand. I turned my head. Lucien. He smiled the moment our eyes met. You came back. Before I could answer, footsteps raced toward us. Serena's joyful voice echoed across the courtyard. Ethan. Lucien. She wasn't crying. She remembered us. Everyone remembered us. Serena threw her arms around me before I could even stand. You idiot, she laughed, wiping away happy tears. Do you have any idea how worried we were? I take it I'm forgiven? Barely. Adrian walked over with his usual gentle smile. You caused quite a bit of trouble. I rubbed the back of my neck. Sorry. He chuckled. I was talking to both of you. Lucien, completely unfazed, slipped his fingers between mine. So we're being blamed together now? Exactly, Adrian replied. For once, Serena added, the Academy has something more interesting to gossip about than exam scores. As if on cue, students began whispering nearby. Look, they're holding hands again. They're actually still together. I heard Lord Ashford confessed in front of half the Academy. My face immediately heated up. Do they ever stop talking? Lucien glanced at me with a teasing smile. They usually talk more when we do this. Before I could ask what he meant, he gently cupped my face. Lucien. He leaned in and kissed me. Right there, in the middle of the courtyard. Several students squealed. Someone started clapping. I pulled away, laughing despite myself. You're unbelievable. You don't seem to mind. I never said I minded. His smile grew warmer. I know. Just then, a soft chime echoed inside my mind. The mechanical voice returned one last time, but it sounded different, gentler. Final update. I blinked. A glowing page appeared before me. The words slowly rewrote themselves. Status, side character. The title faded away. New words replaced it. Status, main character of your own story. Then the page dissolved into countless tiny lights that drifted into the sky. No warnings. No corrections. No fate trying to erase me. Only freedom. I looked around the Academy, the place that had once been nothing more than words on a page. Now it felt like home. I smiled at Lucien. So, what happens after the ending? He intertwined our fingers again. We live it. Together, we walked through the Academy gates, leaving the old story behind and stepping into one that belonged only to us. Maybe I had entered this world as a forgotten side character. But in the end, I didn't need to become the hero. I just needed to become the person the one I loved chose, again and again. And somehow, that was the happiest ending of all.
And that brings us to the end of the story. This is Smiles That Linger, where every story leaves something behind. The story may be over, but the smile doesn't have to be. Until next time, let it linger. And if this story brought a smile to your face, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for listening.